Let's bring in our guest for this hour. Joining us from Sarasota, Florida, we have federal trial attorney Alexis Rosenberg with us. Alexis, this is a case where the defense is arguing at the core. They're arguing a lot of things, but they're saying this was an accident. Yes, he strangled or put his hands around her neck, but did not intend for her to die in his drunken state. We're hearing about the glass, the appearance of a struggle at this crime scene. What do you think this jury needs to see to in any way get on board with this defense?
Well, they're definitely trying to say there was no premeditation. I think the jury needs to see that there was some sort of argument, which defense is trying to show, and that he wasn't necessarily the initial aggressor, which is why they're focusing on this glass, because it supports the allegation that he was hit over the head by her with the glass. Also, I thought he was very good at touching upon and making it clear to the jury that it wasn't that he, the defendant, had knocked down the door, but the police had done that when they arrived.
To get the full story across, don't they need him? Don't they need this doctor to take the stand? And hey, being a doctor, doesn't it give jurors sort of an expectation? Well, this guy knows he should be able to be comfortable with speaking and taking the stand, and I want to hear from this guy. Does it add some pressure, his status, I guess, to take the stand and tell his side of the story?
Well, I think all jurors want to hear the defendant speak. And in most cases, the defendant should not take the stand. I'm not sure yet if they're going to need him to take the stand. But obviously, the juror would love to hear what he's saying happened. I mean, we have some pretty clear evidence that's come out about that night. And what it really focuses on is, was it premeditated or was it not?
This case, it's a complicated one because of the relationship here, Alexis. There are priors that the defense has tried to get in about the victim, and there are priors that the prosecution wants to get in about this defendant. How do you think that's going to impact things for this jury, understanding the volatility of this relationship?
I mean, you said it, volatility. This was not, they were not going to win Marriage of the Year for sure. I think that it does definitely support that there was this argument between the two of them were always arguing, and it really was at a heightened level. And that supports the defense. It really does, that he didn't plot this out. And then obviously now we have the hair, the clumps of hair, which we're going to assume were hers because he doesn't have long hair, to support that there was this argument. And these aren't things that you generally would see like this if it was premeditated.
Alexis Rosenberg, this courthouse is the site of the Karen Reed courthouse, same one, and the judge has repeatedly talked about it for this jury to ignore what's going on over there. It shouldn't be a problem, right? It just doesn't, I mean, yes, there's going to be people free Karen reading outside maybe, but what's your take on the chaos within this courthouse starting tomorrow with jury selection in Reed?
I don't think it's going to make a difference, but is there something in the water there? I mean, to have both of these trials going on at the same time, I don't know if I want to be married or dating in that county. But I mean, I'm listening to this and getting back to the hair, you know, as they were doing the testimony, it seemed like it was a substantial amount, right? And then we look at this picture and it's not really that much. I got to tell you, if my husband was on trial for murder, my hair is all over the house. It's all over my car. It's in everything. So, I mean, making a big deal about that and saying a clump when it really doesn't appear to be a clump, thrown in a lab on top of that, I mean,
seems like the defense made some inroads even with you, Alexis. And so I want to mention that what possibly they're talking about with that redaction there in the testimony, what police were interviewing him about, and they mentioned that he wasn't working. And we know, and I don't know if the jury is going to know, and maybe that's why it's redacted, is that he had been sued or accused by the Attorney General for fraudulent billing, saying something and billing Medicaid for it and finding out he didn't have that equipment in his doctor practice. And he had been fired from the hospital where he worked. Your thoughts on whether or not that should come in or likely is not going to come in for these jurors?
I don't think it's going to come in. So what they're referring to is that there was some allegation by Medicaid that he misbilled. there would have been an investigation on their end on that. And I do believe that he ultimately came to some agreement about repaying, or the hospital did, about repaying that amount. If he was doing this without the hospital's knowledge, which it appears to be, then they had every right to terminate him. But I don't think that has any bearing on here, other than it is fraud and it goes to dishonesty. So they could potentially try and get it in.
Yeah, which could be a problem down the line.
Could be if he
Sentencing.
takes the stand,
Yeah,
perhaps.
Oh, right. If he takes a stand, is that fair game?
Yeah, there was an adjudication, and usually there's not unless they open a trial with that type of thing. What usually is going to happen is Medicaid is going to reach out and do an investigation, and you go back and forth with some sort of settlement with regard to it. So I do not think it's going to come in, and I'm not so sure he's going to take the stand either.